Welcome to the Predictive Pulse podcast. I'm Carlos Casas, CEO and Principal Analyst of Predictive Data Lab. We are your data science and media partner, and our team of experts are dedicated to providing strategic insights for data, research, and analysis. Our podcast explores the world of data and marketing analytics, helping you stay ahead of the curve. Join us on this journey to tap into tomorrow's insights today. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes as we embark on this data-driven adventure together. All right, you guys. Well, welcome. This is so nice to have both of you. So on today's episode, we will be talking about awareness, consideration, conversion tactics in the marketing funnel, the difference between them and why do they matter. So we're very excited to have here with us today. We have Dana Cody, our Director of Data Science here at Predictive Data Lab, and Oren Fanek, our Lead Data Analyst, also at Predictive Data Lab. So welcome, you guys. How are you guys both doing? Coming in from Dana, New York. Oren, where are you coming from?
I am coming from Whitefish, Montana.
Nice.
I am so happy to be here. We're going to have some good chats and we're going to have a lot of fun.
Awesome. Very cool.
Very excited.
So as we talk about marketing funnel tactics, right? What are some of the first things that you guys think about? Just for a little perspective, we work with a wide variety of clients. Everyone kind of defaults back to the marketing funnel, right? And for those that maybe don't know what that is, a marketing funnel, as describes, or the word describes, it's a funnel designed to help us understand how people go in from basically not knowing anything about a product or service or a brand all the way through an actual purchase, right? And so from that, we have the awareness level stages. From then we move on into these consideration stage, then conversion, then retention, right? And so how do you guys feel about the funnel?
I think it's a really helpful framework to think about the customer journey and think about the way that you need to speak to a customer or a consumer in order to make them make a purchase or guide them in making that purchase. Mm-hmm. And that's ultimately really what the difference between all the tactics are is what is the message that they're just trying to get across and the goal of those marketing dollars.
Right. What about you, Oren?
I agree wholeheartedly with everything Dana said. It's a wonderful framework where we get a little bit more granular as how we actually employ that framework in a way that's effective and efficient in terms of achieving the customer's goals, which I'm sure we'll get later into in the podcast.
So when you say framework, you're referencing the funnel in itself?
The 3 stages, that awareness stage, that consideration, engagement stage, and that conversion stage.
Got it. Okay. And so now, Dana, you mentioned the consumer journey. How do you tie that into the funnel?
So the consumer journey as the perspective of if you're, thinking about awareness tactics and people who are in the awareness stage, they don't know who you are, right? They don't know what your brand is, what you sell, what you have to offer. And so really the customer journey is the journey of a customer from, I am unaware of this brand. Oh, I kind of know what this brand is. I know what this destination is. I've seen some of that on social media to thinking about how expensive are the flights? That journey from, I don't know who you are to, oh, I kind of know a little bit more. I'm thinking about how expensive is it? What's the best time to visit to ultimately making that purchase and booking that flight to visit that destination. It's all about from knowing nothing to, I go there every year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, talking about destinations, right? In a destination marketing space, how do we apply the marketing funnel efficiently or correctly in that space?
I think it's really understanding how all of these different tactics work together to ultimately move these customers along this journey. Mm-hmm. I guess the analogy that I kind of have in my head is, recently I just moved. And so when you move, there's you are constantly thinking about the most efficient way to do this, right? And okay, I'm going to move stuff from the truck to the lobby of the apartment building. And then I'm going to take all of the stuff from the lobby to the second floor and then but that's ultimately what it is about is right. This tactic is designed to make somebody who is unaware of this destination and now they are aware and at least know where it is and that it's a destination that people go to on vacation. Mm-hmm. It's all about just moving the consumer from point A to point B on this journey. And
right.
there's other parts of that, but understanding too, where where is a given consumer on that journey, and using these different data sources to ultimately understand that. And that's more into targeting, but that's
Right.
part of the funnel too.
Yeah. So when you guys mention tactics, like, can you give us some examples of maybe those that are designed to provide levels of awareness versus those that are designed more to provide a conversion, right? Can you go into detail there, Oren?
Absolutely. When we look at awareness, we're really looking at generating, like Dana just said, that awareness for the destination. Let's first get people to understand that it exists. So we want to drive high levels of impressions, high levels of clicks to make people aware of our destination. So typically we'll employ things like social media, very, very high visually enticing tactics that can generate high levels of impressions, high levels of clicks, and start getting users familiar with that location. And then once that seed of familiarity starts to take shape in a user's mind, that's when we can draw them in a little bit deeper. This is where we get to the actual exciting part, the nuances of the funnel. You have some locations that are farther away that need more time to this funnel to actually, materialize. So the awareness stage, high impressions, high clicks, that consideration engagement phase, that's when we'll employ some different tactics like cross-platform display, programmatic advertising to start getting a little bit deeper with these users, maybe bringing them to the actual website. And then Dana, I'll let you talk about conversion so I don't ramble too long.
So before we do that, actually, let me ask you this. You mentioned clicks, right? So impressions and then clicks. Can you explain to us what you mean by that? What is the goal of the click there?
The click for the awareness is typically to get the user to the actual destination's website, especially when we're looking at destination marketing. So maybe it's an Instagram ad and it's saying, visit our island. We want users to actually click on that ad and head to whatever destination we're marketing's website so they can get exposure to activities, events, different things that destination has to offer.
Yeah. Yeah. And would you caution to that as all of these tactics and all of these elements come into play, that they balance each other out in some instances?
Yeah, I think so. It's like, you know that I'm big on analogies.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Bring them on.
It's very much like, when you're making like a chili or like a curry, there's all these different ingredients that combine to make this really delicious and amazing meal, but you need all of these different tactics because ultimately, as a consumer, there are lots of different media that I consume on a daily basis. And okay, maybe I didn't look at TikTok today, but I did watch Hulu for 3 hours. And so that's what it's about, is being in all these different areas where your consumer is going to be.
And I would also add maybe understanding the each individual metric, right? Clicks are great, but also did they do anything else? Saved it, shared it, engaged with it in some form or fashion, viewed it up to a certain period of point in time. So now, Dana, what are some of the conversion tactics you were kind of thinking about?
Yeah, I think that the two big ones in my head right now, I think the number one I think of is search engine marketing. I think I always kind of make the joke that that's like as a conversion tactic as it gets, because those are people who are really at the bottom of the funnel. They are literally looking for you. They are searching for you. And so being there to capture that demand is really important. That's ultimately like what makes it a conversion tactic, is you will see really impressive conversion rates on that. I think another one too is TikTok. TikTok, we often see for a lot of our clients that TikTok is very much kind of functioning as a conversion tactic. But I think what's really interesting about is this a conversion tactic or is this a consideration tactic, is that there's a lot of different yes, the placement plays into that. Like a lot of times TV ads are going to be more top of funnel, just because if I'm watching TV, I'm not going to take action right now. I'm not going to, oh my God, I just saw a TV ad to book a trip and now I'm on my phone booking that trip. Like that's not what I'm doing when I'm watching TV. I'm being mindless. But for certain tactics, it also depends on the targeting. If I'm only targeting people who have been to my destination before, that's a retention tactic. That's focused on a very specific subset of people, and the goal of that is a very specific thing. I'm not just trying to make people aware; they're already aware.
Right.
It ultimately, there's lots of different factors that kind of influence whether if it's a awareness or a consideration or a conversion tactic.
So I think you brought something out really interesting. You use the analogy of a curry, right? And sometimes in marketing, we try to simplify things down to the click, right? And so the funnel is a nice structure. It's a nice framework, as you mentioned. But as we know, curry isn't, it isn't linear. And many times the funnel isn't always linear, and neither are the tactics that you're using. As you mentioned, TikTok, a lot of people, I mean, we could have a whole debate on, is TikTok an awareness tactic? Is TikTok an engagement tactic? A conversion? It can be all three, right? It doesn't have to stay in one element, right? So how do you take that into account and help destinations, right, understand that it isn't just a linear funnel, right? There is some complexity to it, and therefore we need to be mindful of that. What are maybe some of your recommendations?
Yeah, I think honestly, it almost like makes this is funny. This is something that we always say internally, that anytime you try to simplify something, you're always in some way leaving out some sort of detail that like contradicts that. There's some gotcha,
right.
Waiting.
Like quantum physics.
Yeah. And I think what at least the kind of the framework that I like to employ in that is, if we see that a specific tactic is a good conversion tactic, but it also performs pretty well, on the consideration or awareness,
right.
or we see that it kind of functions as both, well, we use them as both. I think another thing too that also impacts whether kind of where it sits in the funnel is also the content. Is your call to action, you need to book this trip right now, it's on sale, as opposed to, oh, this destination has like soft sandy beaches and relaxing waves, and that's all you want them to know. After hearing that ad, that's more of an awareness thing. It kind of depends to what the actual content and like the actual creative is showing too.
Right.
But ultimately seeing what it does well at, and that's what you can use it for.
Right. Nice.
And then I would just riff off that by saying, again, we always look at the marketing funnel as a framework. There's so many nuances when you actually deal with a destination and use the marketing funnel that have to be taken into account. For one, where's the destination located? If it's a close destination and we're marketing in a close proximity, maybe we can use conversion tactics that are very low time from awareness, consideration to conversion. If it's an out of country destination we're marketing, maybe we need to consider that many users are going to need 3+ months to actually book to that destination, and we need to handhold them through that marketing funnel and use tactics that allow them to be slowly guided into a big decision, such as booking flights, hotels, passports, you name it. So the marketing funnel in itself can be very overwhelming until you dive into the actual nitty-gritty of who's going, who's my audience, how do I engage with that audience, and then what do I actually need to be successful in bringing that audience to my destination.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? And that's something that, as part of the maybe overwhelming factor, is you have two things as a marketer somewhat against you. The first one is time, right?
Exactly.
I need action.
Exactly.
I need this now, or results now, right? And the second one is obviously revenue. We need to increase hot tags. We need to increase occupancy. And that is related with time, right? Because I can't wait 3 months, 6 months. And then the next one, which is not necessarily a problem, but it is a huge influencing factor, is your budget, right? Can you realistically spend to drive awareness over time? Or
Absolutely.
do you need results now, this weekend, right? So how do you guys balance that?
I mean, it ultimately comes down to what their goals are and where they are as a brand, as a destination.
Right.
For destinations that are pretty well known, and running awareness tactics aren't going to go as far as a smaller destination that definitely needs to get that awareness up, and to for them to achieve their goals, they need to put a little bit more money into an awareness tactic. Something that I love to think about awareness tactics as, I will be honest with you, a good analogy again, I'm sorry, is, and I will confess this, I think about awareness tactics as contributing to your 401k. And I will confess that for the longest time, I hated contributing to my 401k
Right.
because that's money that I could have spent in other areas.
Right.
And I think that also applies for some of our clients where maybe they don't totally see that payoff immediately for
Right.
those awareness tactics. You're not going to see the same ROI for an awareness tactic. And so it's kind of a little less fun to
Right.
dedicate that money to the future, to growing your brand. But it's extremely important if you want to reach your goals, your
Right.
longer term goals.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So how would you approach that balancing act? Because as you mentioned, the consumer journey, you don't, especially from a destination marketing perspective, really no destination starts from zero, right? It's not like a startup that all of a sudden came into existence just now, right? It's probably been there for a while. That destination's probably been there for a while. So they don't always necessarily start from zero, but from a consumer journey, some consumers are starting completely without, there's no brand awareness at all. And for others, it's a place maybe they visit every year, right? So how do you balance knowing that the marketing funnel in relationship to maybe the media budget or the budget in itself?
I think one thing we always stress, especially internally, is marketing efficiency. I know we have timelines with clients that, hey, we need results right away. And maybe the real timeline to get those results is 3 months. But how we can balance the right now in 3 months is through rigorous research, rigorous data analysis, and then applying that analysis in a way that's much more efficient in terms of marketing dollar spend. What I mean by this is sometimes we walk into client meetings and it can be more of a shotgun approach. They're not sure who the destination, who the target audience is, or the right age bracket or the right group to target is. What we can really help do and what we like to do is narrow that bucket down to your most likely candidates who are going to come to your location. So maybe for some people that it's 3 months to get them to come to the destination. With good research, with good intelligence, we can shrink that to 2 months. Maybe if it's a closer destination, with the data we have and the resources we have, again, maybe we can shift that 1 month timeline to half a month. So efficiently spending those marketing dollars, thanks to data and intelligent research, is one way that we try to shift the playing field in terms of market efficiency, to shrink that timeline from awareness, I'm not seeing that payoff, to, oh my goodness, this campaign works, these people are here.
Right. So, the marketing funnel approach has always been, I will spend money in awareness. I will spend money in engagement. I will spend money or consideration. I will spend money in conversion. So what you're describing, Oren, is looking at potentially spending the money, looking at it through a consumer journey, where they stand in that journey, balancing that out against the goals of the client. Is that kind of what I heard?
Absolutely. And again, it just comes back to that marketing efficiency that we always talk about. We try to keep marketing plans very lean. Let's be as effective as we can with the dollars that you have to spend without overinflating any segments of the funnel. So if we have a great user base already established for this destination, let's go heavy on conversion. We already have the people that we know. We already have them in a close proximity. Let's get them here now. If it's a new destination or a destination that's much farther out, let's be efficient in how we research so we don't have to spend a ton of time in that awareness stage. But let's also, again, saturate the awareness stage to bring those users through our funnel and to the destination.
Right. So what are some of those ways you would research something like that?
Doing a persona study with predictive data lab. No, but honestly, seriously, I think that's a huge part of it is, when we do personas, a really important factor that we always consider when we're, understanding these audiences is kind of the expected value and what the cost to acquire is. And ultimately, what those sum to is their lifetime value.
Right.
But that's ultimately...
So explain that. What do you mean by lifetime value of who?
The lifetime value of the customer. So lifetime value is the cost to acquire plus their expected value or their expected future value. If you are targeting your audience where we see very heavily that when they come to the destination, they're extremely likely to come back. They're extremely likely to come back with friends. They're extremely likely to make it like their regular family vacation. That increases their expected lifetime or future value, also lifetime value. And so factoring in how much marketing dollars do I need to spend to get these people to come here, and also factoring in how likely are they to keep coming back.
Right.
Those two numbers tell us what their lifetime value is.
Right.
And so considering both of those numbers tells you, because when you're looking at your target audiences, there's going to be more of this audience who, definitely needs more of that awareness, more of that awareness dollars, more of that awareness content.
Yeah.
And that, again, factors into, that's heavily influencing what their cost to acquire is. And that's, at the end of the day, why marketing is so difficult sometimes, is trying to understand, where should I be spending my next marketing dollar? Should I be focusing on this audience to get these folks to come, or this audience to get these folks to come? And understanding how far is this dollar going to go, and where should I put it?
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned lifetime value. That's a big word, lifetime, right? So is that like an annual thing, or are we talking about more time, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to a destination. Some people might visit a destination one time that year, not come back over the course of 3 years, and they're back again on the 4th year, right? So should we be looking at lifetime value really over a course of long life?
No, that's exactly right. That's a very, very important part of considering lifetime value, because we aren't able to look 50 years into the future,
right,
yet. But yeah, like 3 to 4 to 5 years, that's absolutely something that you'd want to factor in, because also a huge part of spending awareness dollars is how you perform in the next 3 to 4 or 5 years is also dependent on how much am I putting into my awareness efforts now.
Right. So, and I think that brings out a great point. Media plans, right? Really, we at most, or better yet, at best, clients will plan annually, right? But what you're describing is we really need to take into account more than a 1 year plan, right? Especially in relationship to their long-term strategy. What is the brand or the destination really trying to achieve 5 years from now, 10 years from now, right? And then how do we make that happen as most cost efficiently as possible every single year as we move forward, rather than at the end of the year, great job, now we start all over again, right? And we're only looking at that annual base. What are your thoughts on that, Warren?
I think you bring up a great point on the annual basis. A year feels like a long time, but in the grand scheme of things, a year is extremely short in terms of a destination's marketing efforts. As Dana mentioned, we do personas here at Predictive Data Lab, and one of the things we stress is trying to understand the trends over time. So when we look back and we do research and we segment customers and we find out all our insights and predict the future and how we should allocate marketing dollars, we're looking back typically over at least 5 years, and we're analyzing these trends over time and then saying, based on your last 5 years, here's what we're seeing for the next 2 to 3. Maybe 4 or 5 is a little shady, but this looks pretty good for the next 2 to 3, and then we'll reassess. So as far as looking at marketing over time, again, it comes down to truly understanding who that audience is, how do we reach that audience effectively, and then being proactive in reaching that audience again and again. We just had a really cool segmentation we did, and we actually did calculate who are your repeat visitors and why do they come back to this destination? How long do they stay? And now we have that target segment that destination can tap into in different seasons than the actual peak traveler seasons. So now they have almost like a subsidy group that they can continually tap into that like the destination, that come a lot, and don't typically fill the peak season. So to keep that revenue going throughout the year.
Right. And that's huge, right? Because that's ultimately the economic engine
Absolutely.
of that location.
And that's the base for those low season months. Those other personas are not coming in those seasons. So to keep that marketing funnel, alive and rolling, we can still use engagement, consideration, and conversion during the low seasons for slightly lower rates as occupancy isn't as high, but there's still heads in beds. People are still coming, and that's important.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So as we look at the marketing funnel, right? And as we reflect that, so on our end, the marketing funnel seems to be for us marketers, right? On the consumer's end, it goes back more towards a consumer journey, right? How they navigate the ebb and flow of coming through that funnel, really, and engaging with the brand in some sense, right? Or understanding that. How can we help destinations understand that a little bit better? Any thoughts on that?
Honestly, I think it's quite simple. It's like, remember that you are a person who also books vacations,
Mm,
you know, and thinking about, like, we use data to understand the world around us and to honestly influence our decisions here. But I think there is a various important aspect of, I'm not saying use your gut, but use your gut to understand what data you need. You know, I
mm,
think that sometimes um, analysis paralysis, you have all of this data in front of you, especially, you know, to people who are newer in the field, and they don't know what to do with it. They know that they need to ask questions, but they don't really know that much about the domain knowledge and about like kind of the ecosystem that they're working in
mhm.
to actually use the data to answer the questions because they don't really have any questions.
Ah,
But that's where the questions come from, is thinking of it from the perspective of a consumer.
mhm.
What influences me to make a decision when I am booking a vacation?
Right.
And thinking about that aspect of it, and, you know, using data to understand that a little bit further. Oh, you know, I usually look on TikTok to understand which destinations I'm interested in, but what actually drives me to make that purchase? Obviously price, obviously, you know, when can I go, and all of those things that I'm interested in, all that. But at the end of the day, I think that's really, for me, what I often think about, and like what I start with is, what do I do?
Hmm. Interesting. What about you, Warren?
I agree with everything Dana said. We strive to keep it as simple as possible. There's tons of noise out there, and you can get lost in that noise and then hit the analysis paralysis stage. When it comes to looking at people and getting people effectively to a destination, depending on the audience and depending on the destination again, will vary how we do our research, will vary what data we look at, and we'll find those key KPIs that we'll really hone in on to drive that visitation. But in terms of keeping it simple, I think she said it best. There's so much noise. Finding those key drivers of growth and travel are what's really important in terms of getting people to destination markets.
Right. Yeah. You know, the other thing too that I often think about is, yes, through that process, a marketer will make mistakes, right? Something might not pay off as well as they would like it to, but just do it in terms of, we need to just sometimes take action, simplify things, start somewhere, right? Maybe somewhere small, test some things, assess if you've got that persona or not that persona, and really, but ultimately do it, right? Because at some point it is overwhelming, and there's so many different layers that a marketer can feel like they just don't know where to. It's a full circle, right? I started here, and then I went through all of this stuff, and I'm right back to where I started, and I haven't made a decision on it.
And I think the marketing funnel is a series of constant correction. You're never going to get it 100% correct the first time. What needs to happen is constantly assessing, what are we doing right? Wonderful, let's keep that going. But also, what are we doing wrong? And making small tweaks that over the long term pay off. Because that funnel is such a framework, like we say, and as I'm sure everyone can hear, there's so many nuances, so many levers that you can pull throughout that stage, that I'm just constantly assessing, analyzing, and making sure that our tactics, our strategies, our personas are in line with the destination goals and the results is super important.
Yeah. No, you both said really, really important parts of sometimes you have to be wrong to then become right. You have to, you know, run a specific tactic, run, you know, a retargeting strategy to realize, why is this not performing well? Oh, well, I'm actually retargeting based on this qualifier that actually doesn't make sense for what I'm actually even trying to promote. And so it's really all about, sometimes you have to see that you're not doing well, and then see, well, why is this not doing well? What specific part of this is actually failing?
Right.
And then kind of adapting from that and changing. That's why we optimize.
Right.
And we get excited when we see things that aren't doing quite what we expected, because that's an opportunity to pull back the curtains again and say, okay, we got close, but we didn't hit the bullseye. What can we tweak this time to get even deeper? What can we change to become even more effective? Which is, again, very rewarding and extremely beneficial for destinations.
Yeah. You know, it's fascinating because the marketing in general, and not just marketing, but many different fields are quickly having to adapt and evolve, right? When it comes to the level of talent you need now to carry out some of these things in regards to marketing, right? Here we have Dana, our director of data science, right? How does that play into now when it comes to destination marketing?
Well, I think first and foremost is the data that you have available and ultimately what that data is telling you and understanding thoroughly what that data is telling you and specific limitations of that. And obviously, you can build predictive models that tell you who's most likely to visit your destination, who's most likely to, be a higher lifetime value visitor. There's all those different factors, but honestly, I really think it is the first things first is having that data available to inform those decisions that tells you what's going on. Because that's a really a big struggle for a lot of destinations is they don't have that much data that they can use to reference specifically about their customers, right? You can get star reports that tell you your actual performance and the like, but actually knowing who's coming to your destination, it can be incredibly difficult to do that if you're not doing a persona study or something like that.
Yeah, excellent. Would you say there's any pitfalls in regards to using or relying too much on that framework of the marketing funnel?
Absolutely. The biggest pitfall is just expecting the marketing funnel to work its magic by simply doing awareness tactics, consideration engagement tactics, and conversion tactics with no baseline understanding of your target audience and that research that really will inform your strategies. So some of the biggest pitfalls we see are, again, that shotgun approach that we talk about.
Yeah.
We're not understanding where our people are truly coming from. We're not understanding the demographics that are driving visitation. So we're just spreading awareness where it sticks. And then we're throwing out some engagement and consideration tactics where they fit. And then hopefully they convert. That's probably the biggest pitfall that we see is in terms of just not understanding how many levers you truly need to pull and to understand to get that beautiful waterfall that is that funnel from awareness, consideration to conversion in a way that's really, really efficient and really effective in terms of a destination, bringing people there and bringing them back again.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, very nice.
I think one thing I'd just like to add to that is that and we were talking about this actually earlier today, is that marketing is a tool that we can use to get these people to go to a destination. But a lot of the decisions that are made aren't because somebody saw an ad. They're because they saw that, all of their friends in the past 2 years have gone to this destination and they've posted all these pictures on social media, and understanding that marketing needs to work together with these other efforts that you have, PR efforts, or maybe not so much on the destination space, but sales, like what the efforts of a sales team and all of those aspects of it. And those working together on that. Marketing is not working in a vacuum. There's all these other things that are going on that a consumer sees and is exposed to.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Oren and Dana, we've run out of time, so we really thank you guys for being here with us today. It's been a great insight to the world of the marketing funnel.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode and would like to stay updated on future episodes, be sure to subscribe to the Predictive Pulse podcast. Whether you're a data enthusiast, marketer, or business leader, our aim is to provide you with the latest media and analytics trends to help you tap into tomorrow's insights today. Don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future topics, feel free to reach out. We value your feedback and are always eager to hear from our listeners. Thank you again for joining us on this data-driven journey. And until next time, stay ahead of the curve with the Predictive Pulse podcast.